Good morning, kids. We are just about finishing our letter, 2 Thessalonians, that Paul wrote to the church at Thessalonica, And today we have a fascinating topic to cover, and that is work. Okay, now in my opinion, I think that work gets a bad rap. And what I mean by that is that we tend to think of work as a bad thing. But God, in His Word, shows that it's exactly the opposite. Okay, work is actually a great thing. So I hope that you as kids can embrace God's perspective of work, even from a young age. Now, in this section, 2 Thessalonians 3, verses 6 through 15, Paul is basically saying that you should keep away, so keep your distance from any fellow Christian who is walking in idleness. Okay, now what does it mean to be idle? The word idle, which is not idol like I-D-O-L, like you bow down to an idol. It's I-D-L-E. And idle, I-D-L-E, means basically not doing anything. When a car is idling, it means it's not going anywhere. Okay, that's what it means to be idle. You're loafing around, you're not accomplishing anything, you're not serving anyone, you're not creating anything or producing anything or doing any work. And Paul specifically says that he and Silas and Timothy, when they were in Thessalonica, they did not do that. They were not idle. They were an example to the Thessalonians of what it looks like to work hard. They worked day and night. They did not take anyone's food unless they paid for it. Okay, they worked very hard and they were an example. Paul even goes on to say, I'm reading this from Scripture, if anyone is not willing to work, let him not eat. No work, no food. That's what Paul was saying, okay? So basically, Paul had gotten word that there were some people in this church who were not busy at work, but rather busybodies. I don't know if you've heard the word busybody. What a busybody is basically, it's actually the only time in the New Testament that this word is used, but what it means is literally to be overly involved. Okay, so what he's saying is that you are overly involved in everyone else's affairs and everyone else's situations, but you're not involved in the work that you are supposed to be doing. Okay, so instead of being busy at work, they're busybodies. So Paul is saying that these people are neglecting their own work in order to be overly concerned about the affairs of others. So let me give you an example of what this might look like for your life. So let's say that you went and you told your mom that your brother or your sister hasn't done their chores and they haven't put their toys away, they haven't cleaned their room, they haven't brushed their teeth, and you're constantly just tattling and harping on telling your mom everything that your sibling hasn't done. And your mom says, okay, well, did you pick up your toys? Did you clean your room? Did you brush your teeth? Did you do your chores? And you're like, I was gonna do that, right? It's when you're so busy looking out for everyone else that you don't pay attention to what you are supposed to be doing. So concerned with making sure everyone else does their part that we actually don't do what we're supposed to do. That's what Paul is talking about. And honestly, I see this in the adult world all the time. People can be so outraged on social media and they're this link and that link, and I can't believe that this person did that and the government did that, and I'm up in arms about this and that. And honestly, I'm thinking, who has time for this? I have so much work to do every single day. I can barely respond to my texts, let alone try to solve all the world's problems on social media, okay? So there just isn't time. When we're busy being about the good work that God has given us, there isn't time to sit around and be concerned about everyone else's work. So Paul says, don't do that. He says, do your work quietly and earn your own living. Do your work quietly and do your own living. And basically he's saying, do your work without making a big deal about it. Okay? Cut the drama. Do your work. Do your work without making a big deal about it. This last week, we just got home yesterday. We went camping with some friends, Renew family. And on our camping trip, there were 4 adults and there were 7 kids. So lots more kids than adults. And if you've ever been camping before, you know that it is a lot of work. Okay, it's not really a vacation in like you go to a hotel or you go to a restaurant and everything's just done for you. It is tons of work. Everything takes work, from setting up tents, cooking food, going and getting ice, cleaning up, packing lunches each day. We were also on a lake, and so it meant carrying kayaks and rafts and coolers and towels and locking up bikes and filling water bottles. So in order for it to be fun for all of us, it meant that everyone had to pitch in and work. Everyone, every single person, kid, adult, had to pitch in and work. And it was so awesome, I have to say. It was so awesome for me to see 6 kids. Not Justice. He didn't really do a whole lot of work. He was a lot of work, but he didn't do a lot of work. It was so awesome to see 6 kids work so hard all week to serve the group so that everyone could have fun. It was such a blessing. Can you imagine if we went camping and we were all there together camping, and one of us just pulled up a camp chair by the fire and sat down, put his feet up and sat down the whole time and watched everyone else do all of the work. And then as soon as it was dinner time and the hamburgers were ready, he jumped up and raced to the front of the line to come and get his food. What do you think we would say, right? No, okay? You didn't do any of the work. You've been sitting around all week. Everyone there would know that's not right. It's not appropriate. Because we're in this together, it's going to take all of our energy and effort in order to make this a blessing for everyone. Paul would say the same thing. He would say, no way. In order for this community thing to work, we all need to work. So now, why do you think Paul is making such a big deal about this? It might be just so that things are fair. That might be part of it. But I think that Paul knows that ultimately work is a good thing. It's good for the group, but it's also good for the individual. It's good for us. We got a lot more done when we work together as when we work individually, but it is also good for our own souls. Back in Eden, if you remember the very beginning of time, when God created Adam and Eve and he put them in the Garden of Eden, even before the fall, before the curse, before there was any disobedience, before there was anything bad or wrong in the world, do you know what Adam and Eve were called to do with their lives? Work. Right? They were called to work the ground with God, in relationship with God, filled with his joy and his strength. They were to work the ground in order to bring forth food. Okay? So they worked and then they ate. They worked and then they ate. That was the cycle. That was the process. That's what we were created for. That was the good work that they were called to do. That's what we were made to do. Okay? The book of Proverbs, I'm reading Proverbs right now in my personal quiet time, my devotions each morning, and there are tons of Proverbs full of the wisdom about work. There's a few, when our kids were little, they used to memorize sort of rhyming versions of verses, and they memorized this one that said, lazy hands make a man poor, Proverbs 10:4. That's what they remember. Lazy hands make a man poor. Proverbs 10:4. But there's lots of them. Those who work the land will have abundance of food. The diligent hands will rule, but laziness ends in forced labor. All hard work brings profit, but mere talk leads only to poverty, right? That's one that's right in line with our scripture. If you just sit around and talk all day, that's a busybody. Working hard, that brings good blessing and profit to our lives. And then Ephesians 4:28 is talking to those who have been stealing from other people. And he says, stop stealing, work instead. Do something useful with your hands so you have something to share with others. So God wants us to work hard, not only so that we will have food and enough for ourselves, but so that we will be able to share. That's the blessing, is when we work hard, we'll have enough to share. That's what is designed for the church family. And this happens in our church family all the time. It is such a blessing to be part of such a generous church family. Even at the beginning of this pandemic, I'm sure there were many, but I know one family that said, you know what, we have plenty. Here's a bunch of money to help people in case they have a shortage during this time. That's what it's all about, to work hard. Everyone's working hard. And then if you need a little extra, hey, I can give to you. And then if I need some extra, hey, you can give to me. There's generosity, but generosity doesn't mean that some people just sit around and put their feet up, right? It means we all work hard for the sake of the whole group and that we're generous with one another. There's an old phrase that says, idle hands are the devil's workshop. Okay, what does that mean? It means that when we're not busy working hard, we tend to get into trouble. And that is definitely true. This passage is for all of us. And it'd be great for you to know from a young age that you were created to work hard, to do good work in order to provide and create and to be a blessing for others. Just this week, Heidi was working hard on a project, a creative project, in order to bless some other kids in our church family. And I thought, yes, that's exactly what you should be doing. We work hard to do creative things in order to bless others. So we don't need to be overly concerned with what he's doing or what she's doing. We need to just be concerned with doing the work that God has called us to do. So leave you with a question. What work can you do this week to be a blessing to your family and then maybe even your larger Renew Church family? All right. We love you guys. Pastor Jeff is going to finish up 2 Thessalonians next week when we meet outdoors, and I hope to see you then.